Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Basis Points, where we dive deep into the numbers and the stories that drive our economy and shape our world. The headlines. Lower electricity rates this month. Meralco gives consumers something to celebrate. A big shakeup in Congress. Zaldy steps down as House Appropriations chairman. Does this have something to do with the controversial 2025 national budget? Stabilizing oil prices or global uncertainty. U.S. President Joe Biden weighs in on the impact of new sanctions on Russian oil. First, let's take a quick look at how markets performed overnight. Now, over in the U.S., in Wall Street, the Nasdaq dropped Monday while the S&P 500 reported a slight gain after bouncing off a two-month low. This comes as U.S. Treasury yields remain high and investors temper expectations for rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. The Dow Jones Industrial Average higher by 0.9%, the S&P 500 higher by 0.2%, and the Nasdaq in the red, down by 0.4%.
The biggest risk to me right now is if we did see inflation break its trend and start to tick back up. That would be a negative in a lot of different areas, because it could shutter what the Fed could do, because we could see a scenario where inflation starts to pick back up and we're seeing hotter and hotter inflation. The Fed can't cut rates anymore, but at the same time, maybe the employment market starts to get worse. And so if we started to see inflation pick up and unemployment pick up at the same time, the Fed would be stuck. And I think that would be a scenario that could be, quite dangerous for equity markets, because there just wouldn't be that mechanism, that safety net that markets are so used to in the past when we kind of have some economic downturn.
Over in Europe's markets continue to struggle. The FTSE lost 0.3%, the DAX down much deeper, down by 1.3%, and the CAC 40 flat. Now, global markets remain mixed, with inflation and rate expectations weighing on investor sentiment. Here at home, consumers can breathe a sigh of relief this month as Meralco announces lower electricity rates for January. Sujin Kim has the details.
The year is off to a good start as electricity rates dropped this January 2025. From 11 pesos and 96 centavos per kilowatt hour in December, the new rate stands at 11 pesos and 74 centavos. For a household consuming 200 kilowatt hours, this translates to a savings of approximately 44 pesos on their bills this month. The drop in rates is due to lower generation charges.
Kung titingnan po natin yung actual movement ng charge ng generation, there was a reduction of almost 16 centavos. Malaki po yung reduction sa WESM at 88 centavos per kilowatt hour. So halos piso na po ito. Overall po ay reduction pa rin po ang nangyari sa generation charge.
Prices in the wholesale electricity spot market or WESM dropped by 44 centavos.
Isang malaking dahilan kung bakit bumaba ang generation charge for January ay dahil sa pagbaba ng spot market prices. Gumanda yung supply situation sa Luzon grid dahil malaki ang binaba ng demand dahil nga sa holiday season.
IPP charges also declined due to stronger peso, lower fuel costs, and operational improvements.
The dollar exchange rate nagkaroon din po ng improvement from 58.62 to 57.845. And as you know, malaking portion po ng generation cost is dollar denominated, kaya this also was a contributory factor.
Transmission charges also decreased by 8 centavos, providing additional relief to customers. However, expect a temporary increase in transmission charges due to an order from the Energy Regulatory Commission. The ERC approved the collection of 3.277 billion pesos for unpaid reserve market transactions.
For Luzon, the estimated add-on is around 12 centavos per kilowatt hour per month for 3 months. So February, March, and April.
But this is expected to be offset by a refund for regulatory reset costs issued by the ERC. Meralco is required to refund 997.16 million pesos or equivalent to 22 centavos per kilowatt hour, which will be reflected in February bills.
Nagkaroon ng recent issuances ang Energy Regulatory Commission na nag-apply sa lahat ng distribution utilities sa Pilipinas. So for Meralco, this means a one-time refund of 22.6 centavos per kilowatt hour plus another refund that will be reflected as a separate line item in the bill of 0.0023 pesos per kilowatt hour.
Despite the lower electricity rates, Meralco urges the public to conserve energy and practice energy efficiency to maximize their savings. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Department of Finance, or DOF, says that it's committed to making tax allotments for local government units clear and transparent. This statement comes after the anti-corruption group Mayor for Good Governance, or M4GG, asked for a meeting with the DOF to address concerns about a reported shortfall in LGU's share of national taxes. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto says that the DOF is strictly following the Supreme Court's Madanas-Garcia ruling, which gives local governments a fairer share of tax revenues. Recto also welcomes the meeting to discuss and resolve these issues with local officials. In simple terms, this means local governments could have more funds to support businesses and communities, driving growth at the local level. Now, it's a sad day for the banking industry as Swiss banking giant UBS AG shuts down its representative office in Manila after nearly 3 decades of operations. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, confirms the closure but did not disclose the reason behind it. This move reflects a larger trend of global banks re-evaluating their operations in emerging markets, even as the Philippines continues efforts to position itself as a regional financial hub. This development follows the recent closure of Credit Suisse AG's Manila representative office, also for undisclosed reasons. With these closures, the BSP reports that only 8 foreign banks now operate representative offices in the country, including DBS Bank and Bank of Singapore and Rothschild. These closures highlight the challenges the Philippines faces in attracting and retaining global banks, even as it strives to strengthen its position as a financial hub. On another front, artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies are beginning to take over jobs traditionally done by people. Sujin Kim returns with this report.
Graphic design is one of the industries taking a direct hit from artificial intelligence and creative automation tools. With AI now generating visual content at scale, the demand for traditional graphic artists is shrinking. Graphic designer Shala Yu added that many companies now rely on generative AI platforms and AI-powered tools such as Canva and Adobe. The shift in demand has forced graphic artists to adapt to a rapidly evolving industry.
Is concerning because it means less jobs for people like me. Actually, at the moment, my peers, they don't call themselves graphic artists anymore because we had to branch out to a more in-demand forms like short-form reels and illustration.
But graphic design isn't the only sector feeling the impact of automation. According to the Future of Jobs Report 2025 by the World Economic Forum, the global labor market is set to undergo massive changes in the next 5 years. While 92 million jobs are expected to disappear, 78 million jobs will emerge across innovative sectors by 2030. Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma says the Marcos administration is addressing this.
Technological advancements will certainly have an impact or an effect in terms of job losses. Just to emphasize, early on in the administration of President Marcos Jr., there is a recognition that there should be any really deliberate efforts, concerted efforts to address a skills gap.
Tech skills such as big data and cloud computing are in high demand. Fields such as data analysis, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity are expected to drive the greatest opportunities. As AI continues to proliferate, the demand for experts in this technology is rapidly increasing. And with companies becoming more data-driven, the need for data scientists and analysts is soaring.
Data is the new oil or the new gold. Kaya if you're able to extract a lot of business value from the data that you have, then you're in a good spot, especially if you're a data practitioner in this time. It's really one of the backbones of a business-driven decision-making that in any organization.
With technology advancements, nearly 40% of workers' current skills will require updating. Fields such as IT and cybersecurity are critical areas for upskilling.
We have a massive gap between the demand of cybersecurity professionals that we have in our pool versus the ones that are being trained. Hence why DICT is investing heavily and promoting heavily courses in schools that introduce cybersecurity as a formal education.
Unemployment, underemployment, and employment will always be a serious concern. The DOLE has been very actively pursuing or working with various stakeholders, including companies and education institutions, to address skills gaps and to enhance competitiveness vis-a-vis emerging industries, as well as yung nakita ng mga declining industries. And
the Labor Department is actively working with stakeholders to bridge the skills gap and enhance workforce competitiveness. Lagesma also underscored the programs under TESDA.
We align existing training modules, improve ones, to meet the requirements of the business enterprises. And the new enterprise-based and education training law allows actually better enterprise-based collaboration and through apprenticeships and internships.
To address the training gap, 80% of companies plan to invest in training programs in the next 3 years. And even with the rise of automation, graphic designer Shala Yu remains optimistic.
I would say I'm optimistic. Kasi even though the traditional graphic design branch is declining, there are more avenue for us creatives to create. And even though AI is on the rise, there are still things na AI can't do. Parang we're still needed.
Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line.
The latest news, national issues,
with regard to was very vocal about charter change.
the political scene, the trust and approval ratings of President Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte decline, and conversations with prominent personalities.
Brings back wonderful memories of past Christmases when I was a little boy in Iloilo.
Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. All these firsthand at the forefront.
Welcome back to Basis Points. The position of the House Appropriations Committee chairperson is officially declared vacant as Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldy steps down. Zandro Ochona has the details.
Session resumed.
Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldy stepped down from his position as chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, citing health concerns. In a statement, Ko expressed his gratitude to the majority for accepting his decision. He said his decision to step down was due to pressing health concerns, and the demanding nature of his role has taken its toll and would prioritize seeking medical attention. During the first session, after the House resumes its session this year, Senior Deputy Majority Leader Sandro Marcos moved that the chairmanship of the Appropriations Committee be declared vacant.
Mr. Speaker, I move to declare vacant the position of Chairperson of the Committee on Appropriations.
There's a motion. The chair hears no objection. Said motion is carried. Session suspended.
When the session resumed, Speaker Martin Romualdez delivered his opening speech. Romualdez said the House will hold oversight hearings to ensure that the people's money serves the people's needs. The House will investigate issues on smuggling and hoarding, inflating food prices. They will also look into the 206 billion pesos disallowed expenditures by the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, as well as ensure energy reforms that lower electricity costs. They will also investigate the 11.18 billion pesos worth of expired medicines and underutilized PhilHealth funds.
And we will scrutinize the alleged misuse of confidential funds, for no peso must go unaccounted for. Let this be our promise. Public trust is sacred, and this House will never betray it. Sa mga umatake sa atin para tumigil tayo sa mga investigasyon, may mensahe tayo sa kanila. Itutuloy natin ang trabaho na inaatang sa atin ng mamamayan. Hindi tayo atras sa anumang laban para sa bayan.
The session ended with no member of the House replacing Ko for his position. Zandro Ochona, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, urges local government units in Metro Manila to sell, let's pull up that story, to sell NFA rice. Now, this according to the Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa. This move aims to make affordable rice more widely available in the market while freeing up warehouse space for new stocks. The DA is set to meet with the Metro Manila Council this week to finalize the plan. As of December 2024, the NFA has secured 95% of its targeted 300,000 metric tons for the national rice buffer stock. If implemented, this initiative could help ease pressures on rice prices while ensuring a steady supply for consumers. Now, good news for supermarket giant Pure Gold Price Club Incorporated, as it earns a spot among the top 20 companies in Business World's latest top 1,000 corporations in the Philippines. In the first 9 months of the year, Pure Gold's consolidated net income reached nearly 7 billion pesos, marking a 4.5% increase compared to 2023. Supermarket President Ferdinand Vincent Ko says this recognition reflects their commitment to creating sustainable value for customers. He also highlights the company's continued focus on innovation and enhancing operational efficiency. This reaffirms Pure Gold's position as a leader in the food retail industry, setting the standard for sustainability and growth. Now, an Australian woman who claims to be the half-sister of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. appears in a Sydney court on charges of causing a drunken disturbance on a plane. Annalisa Josefa Cor and her husband, James Alexander Cor, were accused of drinking alcohol they brought on board and becoming intoxicated during a Jetstar flight in December. Cor allegedly assaulted a fellow passenger outside of a toilet. After landing, they were arrested and charged with violating safety directions and drinking unauthorized alcohol on the flight. The court returned their passports with conditions, including a pledge not to drink at airports or on flights. Cor claims to be the daughter of the late Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. This story brings unwanted scrutiny to the Marcos family, raising questions about the president's family history and legacy. However, President Marcos Jr. remains firm in distancing himself from these claims, dismissing them as unverified speculation. Now, more than 1 million members of the Iglesia ni Cristo gathered in Manila for a peace rally. The group emphasizes that it was not a political event, even with the presence of several politicians. Hannah T. has the details.
Prominent politicians joined the Iglesia ni Cristo rally on Monday, echoing calls for unity and good governance. The INC summoned its million-strong membership across the country to reject efforts to impeach Vice President Sara Duterte, supposedly in support of President Marcos's own stand. Senator Robin Padilla did not mince words when he stated his opposition to the VP's impeachment.
Napaka-plastic ko naman kung sasabihin ko po sa inyo, pag yan ay umakyat sa Senado, mag-iisip pa kayo kung ano iboboto ko. Definitely. Ngayon pa lang po, alam nyo na po.
Padilla made the statement despite Senate President Cheese Escudero's reminder that senators should avoid commenting on impeachment issues to preserve their impartiality as potential judges in an impeachment court. Padilla, a known endorsee of the INC during the elections, immediately aligned himself with their calls for unity.
Hindi po nagbabago ang aking suporta sa Pangulo at sa pangalawang Pangulo dahil bilang ako po ay unity team.
But Senator Bato de la Rosa took a more cautious stance, stating he would need to study the complaints first.
In deference to the impeachment court that is still to be organized, established by the Senate as an institution, right now, may sabihin ko kagad kung ano yung aking boto dahil nga hindi ko pa nabasa yung articles of impeachment. Paano laman noon? Kung aakyat niya sa Senado, pag-aralan ko, then I will give my decision, my vote.
Senator Francis Tolentino also attended the rally.
Ito ang kailangan natin sa pagbubukas ng taong ngayon, 2025, yung ipadama sa ating mga kababayan ang pangangailangan ng una, kapayapaan at pagkakaisa bilang sambayanan.
Tolentino added, unity is important, especially between the executive and legislative branches.
Walang mangyayari sa atin, di ba? So, dapat siguro talagang magkaugnay-ugnay.
Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Honey Lacuna assured the public that the local government was hands-on in coordinating the event, while stressing that her attendance was non-political.
Kami po ang nahingan po ng koordinasyon ng ating pong mga kapatid na sa gayon po ay maging payapa po itong ginagawa nating National Rally for Peace.
Also in attendance was her former ally and now political opponent Isko Moreno.
Kami ay nakikiisa sa panawagan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos at ng Eduardo B. Manalo na magkaroon ng kapayapaan at pagkakaisa sa ating bansa.
Senator Amy Marcos, who was unable to attend, also sent a message of support to the INC. She praised the peace rally as a symbol of freedom of expression. As early as 9 a.m., Malacanang had instructed government agencies to ensure the safety and peacefulness of the rally. The palace further underscored the importance of unity in tackling national challenges. The atmosphere at the rally was relatively peaceful, with nearly 5,500 police deployed to ensure security. By around 5:25 p.m., the program concluded with an estimated 1.58 million attendees. Hannah T., Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick break. Basis Points will be right back.
Good morning, everyone! Hello, I'm Paulo Rosario. Let's get you up to speed with some news that you could use right now.
I'm Anne Escarilo. Make this day an unforgettable one by choosing joy and spreading kindness wherever you go.
And I'm Monique Tuzon, and your mornings are more fun with us. Join us in the next hour for stories and conversations that matter. Only here on
It's a Beautiful Day!
After a slight delay on the PSE indexes on the PSE's website, we now have the figures at the local burst. So let's take a look at them. As of 9:54 this morning, the PSE index is rebounding higher by 0.5% to 63.72. This after falling to a 7-month low, a near 7-month low yesterday, down 2.4% to 63.43. Now, this was on expectations that the American Central Bank may likely scale back monetary easing this year. Now, for the PSEI index, analysts say that yesterday's drop, was mainly due to the stronger than expected U.S. jobs report, which dimmed the likelihood of a rate cut by the U.S. in March. Now, central banks are historically known to pause interest rate cuts when job growth is strong, as this lessens the need for economic stimulus in the form of lower borrowing costs. Now, the futures market is now weighing the possibility of the U.S. Federal Reserve cutting interest rates by 25 basis points and by 50 basis points for the full year. Now, analysts say the peso's depreciation against the U.S. dollar also contributed to yesterday's cautious sentiment. Still, analysts are optimistic that the market, because of its low valuations, it's going to be enticing, and investors can use this time, as they are now, using this time to position themselves for a rally ahead, which is what we're seeing today. Now, up ahead this week, key economic data to watch out for is November 2024 cash remittances, which will be out tomorrow, January 15th, Wednesday. Now, going back to the index, the main gauge is higher by 0.5% to 63.72. The broader all shares index up as well. Not by as much, up by 0.2% to 37.13. Out of the sub-indices, we're seeing a mixed picture. The financials, holding firms, property and mining and oil counters are in the green, while we're seeing continuing selling in the services and industrial counters. Now, at the foreign exchange market, the peso opened stronger at 58.60 against the greenback from its previous close last Friday of 58.70. U.S. President Joe Biden says he expects oil prices to stabilize after Washington imposed tougher sanctions on Russian oil shipments in response to the ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters that the new sanctions would give President-elect Donald Trump's team more leverage in future talks over the war in Ukraine.
Impose sanctions on Russia's oil sector if it meant an undue burden on American working families. He does not believe that the action he took places such an undue burden on them, and he believes, as you project out over the course of 2025 on supply and demand, that the oil market is very well supplied, that oil prices will stabilize in a place that does not impose undue burdens on American consumers, and that on the one hand, we can hit Putin's pocketbook without, on the other hand, taking too big a whack out of the American people's pocketbook. That was not an opportunity available to us 1 year ago.
Meanwhile, Middle East crude benchmark premium surged on Monday to around $3 per barrel above Dubai quotes, the highest since October 2023. The price spike comes as Asian buyers race to find alternative suppliers amid the restrictions on Russian oil. These developments signal a potentially volatile energy market as global tensions continue to impact supply chains and prices. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom proposes at least $2.5 billion in additional funding to aid recovery and cleanup from the devastating wildfires. The proposed fund will also cover enhanced wildfire preparedness measures and support the reopening of schools in affected areas. Meanwhile, as investigations into the cause of the wildfires remain in the early stages, federal officials plan to enforce federal arson statutes against anyone found to have recklessly or intentionally started a fire. At least 24 people have lost their lives due to the blazes, with dozens still missing. The funding is expected to help communities rebuild while strengthening measures to prevent future disasters. And that's it for Basis Points. I'm Maiki Oreta. We'll be back tomorrow for more news on the financial markets and more. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel, always on top.